OMB is preparing for what we're calling the Schumer shutdown. It still surprises me, and I've been through some of these before, that the Democrats in the Senate are opposing a bill that they don't oppose. They're for clean CRs. They're for the extension to the CHIP program. Many of them support the delay in some of the taxes, most specifically the medical device tax, the Cadillac tax especially. They don't oppose anything in the bill, but they are opposing the bill. I just want to let everybody know that we don't want this. We do not want a shutdown. But if Mr. Schumer insists on it, he is in a position to force this on the American people. From an OMB perspective, because we're involved in managing a lapse or a shutdown, and we want to make folks understand that it will look very different than it did under the previous administration. One of the things that I've learned since I've been in this office is that there's no other way to describe it, but the Obama administration weaponized the shutdown in 2013. What they didn't tell you was that they did not encourage agencies to use carry forward funds, funds that they were sitting on, nor did they encourage agencies to use transfer authority. They could have made the shutdown in 2013 much less impactful, but they chose to make it worse. The only conclusion I can draw is they did so for political purposes. So it will look different this time around. We've also got, we can ask for questions, take your questions about specifics on that. Mark Short is also here to give you a very brief update on where we stand, and then we'll take your questions for a few minutes. You want to go ahead?
Thank you all for your time this morning. As Mick said last night, the House passed a bipartisan bill with 230 votes. The President stands ready to sign that bill to keep the government functioning and afloat. It appears, unfortunately, that Senate Democrats are entrenched in forcing a shutdown. I think that there's obviously a lot of hypocrisy in this town. I think there's some ironies to point out. As the director said, Nancy Pelosi a couple years ago called them, quote, "I call them legislative arsonists," in referring to those who are voting for a shutdown at the time, commenting that they're there to burn down what we should be building up in terms of investments in education and scientific research. Chuck Schumer said at the time, it's sort of like this. Someone goes into your house, takes your wife and children hostage, and then says, let's negotiate over the price of your house. In essence, that's the same tactic they're deploying. Last night, I'm sure many of you know, y'all asked Senator Feinstein her position, and she said, if the government shutdowns, people will die. And as a follow-up question, how's she going to vote? She said she hasn't decided yet. People are going to die. I don't know how I'm going to vote on this. So here we are. I think the reality is that this is not about policy. It's about politics. As Mick said, we're not familiar with anything in this CR that Democrats are opposing. In fact, they champion and support the CHIP program. This will reauthorize it for 6 years. I believe new study says there are 9 million children now getting health insurance through that program. The reality is that we will jeopardize payments for our military and our troops and those serving on the front line of our country, both at Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, those who are trying to protect our borders and protect our country. This is a serious issue. We are frustrated, obviously, because Mick's job is to submit a budget to Congress. Let's keep that in perspective. Mick does that in February. Congress has months to complete appropriations process. The fiscal year ends on September 30th. We're now in mid-January. It is frustrating to all of us that we're in this position. But what's unclear is what is it that Democrats are asking in order to get out of a shutdown? It seems that they are just hell-bent on getting to a shutdown. We are anxious to make sure that our troops and those serving on the front lines of our country continue to get paid.
Mark. Mr. Mulvaney.
Mark, a couple things on that. I think we know what the Democrats are asking for. They want a deal on DACA. The president, on the other hand, tweeted last year that our country needs a good shutdown. Isn't he getting exactly what he asked for? And it was the president, as I'm sure you know, the last time we had a government shutdown, who said it is the president's responsibility to lead. He needs to get the players in the room. He needs to lead. So how is he going to lead on this?
So, Jonathan, a couple points there. One, the president was very active yesterday in bringing together the House votes to get 230 votes. He was speaking to the Freedom Caucus members. I think that was where we had the best challenge yesterday, and he helped get that bill accomplished. I think he's making continued calls this morning. He's called both bipartisan members today. He will continue to do that. He is leading on this issue. Regarding DACA, we feel that the administration has put forward our plans on this. Keep in mind that Secretary Kelly a year ago went to Congress and said, we need a solution on DACA. We asked Congress to fix it. We knew what was going to happen when several states sued the federal government over Obama's unconstitutional policy here. We gave them plenty of heads up and warning on this. Back in the fall, we submitted our priorities to Congress in October. We then refined those at their request to say, this is too much. We basically negotiated against ourselves and winnowed down that list for them to say, here are practical things that are necessary to get to a deal on DACA. We have put forward that plan. We think that right now, you just saw a study a couple days ago that showed 2,500 people on the terror watch list are trying to get into this country every year. That is 7 per day. 7 per day. We think it's time to fix the immigration problems in our country. And we have put forward a proposal to do exactly that. We're continuing to have conversations. I think we had productive conversations yesterday with Leader McCarthy, Steny Hoyer, Senator Durbin, and Senator Cornyn. We're about to go back up the Hill to continue those conversations. I think they're making progress. What doesn't make sense is to say we're going to shut down the government just because you're making progress, but I need something else.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Okay, Director Mulvaney, if I may. To the President's comments about S-hole countries, what responsibility does he bear for the challenges there have been to try to come to some deal?
Go back to what Mark just said. The President, let's make one thing clear about that. One of the differences between where we are now and where we were in 2013. Okay? The President is actively working right now to try to prevent a shutdown. I will contend to you that is dramatically different than what President Obama was doing in 2013. I was there, okay? I was involved heavily in this in 2013, and I will tell you that it's absolutely my belief that President Obama wanted a shutdown in 2013 because he thought Democrats would, Republicans would get blamed. So let's talk about today. The President, as Mark just pointed out, actively worked all day yesterday to try and get a bill through the House and continues conversations today. So there's no way you could lay this at the feet of the President of the United States. He is actively working to try to get a deal. That's one of the differences.
So why not bring leadership here as a last-ditch effort?
I think the President's continued bipartisan conversations. I'm not privy to his. Again, I'm not privy to the meetings the President may or may not be having. Yes, sir.
This is a question for Mark. Mark, I know we're talking government shutdown, but this is an important topic for the expected 100,000 or more people taking part in the March for Life today. So I want to ask, the pain-capable 20-week abortion ban has been fast-tracked in the Senate. When do you expect to vote, and why does the White House want to vote if it's likely to die?
I think this administration has continued to defend life from the very beginning. The Vice President last year was the first Vice President to speak to the March for Life. The President is hosting people here to protect life. It's an important issue for this administration. You saw with reversal of Mexico City policy, the President has looked to make sure that we are making sure that taxpayer dollars are not used overseas to fund abortions. That is a commitment of this administration. We don't have a date as to when the Senate will vote, but to your question about whether or not it fails or passes, we think it's important for this administration to be on record in support of life. If I can go back just a second to the last question about bringing leaders over here. Keep in mind, just last week, we had a bipartisan meeting here that the President organized with leadership to try to get to a resolution on DACA. Out of that meeting, discussion was, after the press had departed, discussion was that the 4 leaders, McCarthy, Durbin, Cornyn, and Hoyer would be the ones organizing the meetings moving forward to get to a solution. That's what we've been part of. So when you ask, why isn't the President bringing members over here? He did. He is trying to reach the biggest issue they say is their question, which is shutting down the government over illegal immigration. He's trying to solve that problem and brought them here for that conversation.
I want to ask about your comment at the beginning of this. You said this was the Schumer shutdown. How can it be the Schumer shutdown when Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate?
Come on, you know the answer to that as well as anybody. I mean, I have to laugh when people say that, oh, we control the House and the Senate and the White House, why can't you get this done? You know as well as anybody that it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass an appropriations bill, right? You know that.
I know that.
Okay, so
why
when you
not?
only have
Right.
51 votes in the Senate, then you have to have Democrat support in order to keep the government, to fund the government. So that's the answer to your question.
The President asked Congress to come up with a solution for the Dreamers. Congress was in the room, members of Congress were in the room with the President last week. It seemed to be a fairly productive meeting, and then the whole process got blown up.
We're not-
And
when
it seems-
Republicans
and
tried
if
to-
I may, it seems that the whole process was blown up by the president's comments. And
When
so why not
Republicans tried
just
to
give the
add,
Democrats
when
the
Republicans
dreamers
tried
and
to,
get out of it?
when Republicans tried to add a discussion about Obamacare to the funding process in 2013, we are accused by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer of inserting a non-fiscal, a non-financial issue into the spending process in order to shut the government down. How is that not exactly what is happening today? There is no reason that you have to deal with DACA this week. There's no reason you have to deal with DACA before the end of February, the middle of February. DACA doesn't expire till March 5th. This is purely an attempt by the Senate Democrats, led by Mr. Schumer, it's why we call it the Schumer shutdown, in order to try and get a shutdown that they think this president gets blamed for. Yes, ma'am.
You're saying that you need Democrats' support in the Senate, so are there
And we
any
got it in the House.
So are there any concessions that this White House is willing to make to try to get support from those Democrats that you need?
Again, go back to what I said at the opening. They don't oppose anything in there. They support CHIP. In fact, every member of the finance subcommittee or something like that, a Democrat has voted for this exact